So my next cut, if I had a second guy with me, I'd simply sit myself way back here, go about 4 feet down that branch and do an undercut and let the tension of that line snap the top of that tree off backwards and up into the trees. Instead, we're gonna go on the ground and release that right from the ground. Hey, what's up guys? We just rolled up to a tree on the line call. The comments say large spruce tree lying directly on a transmission line, which I figured wasn't the case. If it was on a transmission line, probably would have known about it before the call came in. So it says supplying pressure, wind's blowing it around, and also mentions crews drove by it during the hurricane and didn't touch it. So we're on site here now. We're about an hour drive out of town, and the tree, the camera flipped around. So quite a bit of pressure on the line, as stated in the comments of the call. It is definitely not a transmission line, it's actually a communication line. We don't actually even have any lines out here at all. This is just back road, only communication wires. So that's probably why the crew didn't stop during the hurricane. But we're gonna take the tree down where it is standalone communication lines. I'll get the tree down and do up a bill for the communication company. The nearest crew, they're quite a ways away. They're over an hour away. So while if I did phone for backup, it absolutely would not be refused. There's a few rules I got to abide by while working. If there was any way the tree, the wires, my tools, anything could make contact with the primary voltage wire, which is not here, other than an insulated stick, I have to have a second guy in sight. I also have to have a second guy on site to use a chainsaw of any kind, even an extension chainsaw. So, I mean, it's not a small tree. That line it's on, the communication line's 1/4-inch steel carrier that those communication lines are lashed to. So there's definitely a lot of tension on that guy. It is just a spruce tree. They're pretty soft wood, pretty easy to cut. So we're gonna start cutting that tree. I'm gonna throw the GoPro cam on and show you guys how to cut a tree. Well, show you guys how we cut a tree. This stuff is absolutely not to be attempted by anyone that's not trained, certified, authorized to do so. Especially something that's on lines. Communication lines are not. Do not touch it unless you're both trained and authorized to do so. But I'm going to show you how we release the tension safely. There's enough tension on that guy to cause some serious injury. Now, don't laugh guys, we're going to be removing this entire tree with a Sawzall. Milwaukee Hackzall to be exact. That thing is amazing, great for stuff like this. Biggest thing to mention when we're removing trees off the line is at no point do you put yourself in the line of fire. That includes even an arm. You reach your arm up over that wire right there and you make a cut and that line decides to take off, that could rip your arm right off, break your arm. It can cause some serious damage. So at no point, even as is right now before we get started, we're not going to put ourselves in the line of fire at any point. So got an 8 amp hour battery, fully charged, all kinds of power for what we need to do today. I got another battery on the charger right now in case we need it. A brand new axe pruning blade by Milwaukee. Again, this video isn't promoted at all guys. This is just some really great stuff. You're gonna see here once we put the camera on how quickly we can rip through that entire tree with a couple $100 hand tool. So we're all set. We got cut proof gloves on, Youngstown. We actually just switched to these gloves and the guys love them. Really great gloves. Quite a bit of dexterity. They're lined with the Kevlar lining. Our guys are loving them so far. And then of course we've got our wheel chocks, outrigger pads, cones set up. There's virtually no traffic on this road. We might see a car or two roll by throughout the job, but not enough that we're going to need traffic control of any kind to do. I should mention, if this, let's say this was a neutral wire and we did have primary up top, One method we sometimes use if we're going to do the cut while the primary is energized is throw a hand line up around the neutral, secure it down to the butt of a tree or even the bumper of the truck. We'll remove the tree, here comes that wind again, and slowly release the neutral wire controlled as we go so it doesn't spring up and make contact with that primary. So it looks like there's actually three separate trees on this line. That orange stripe you see on the line, that's actually a fiber optic cable, and that is zinging tight. That thing would cause a ton of damage if you get yourself in the line of fire and let that thing spring off and hit you. So you can tell better from the other side of the tree how much downward pressure there actually is. When you look at that pole, it's got that line hauled down a good at least 6 feet or so. So we're just going to start cutting and relieving some of that pressure off that line. Now when you're cutting these trees, you got to watch you don't jam your blade too. You look at this little guy, now it's just a little branch, it's not going to be a ton of tension, but you can see where the tension, if you cut on the inside the way that's bent, it's going to try to bite and jam up your saw. You cut on this side, it might spring back at you. You can see it wants to bend back. Just a little birch tree there. So we got to make sure we're aware of where that steel strand is at all times so we don't put ourselves in the line of fire. We're just going to start shedding some weight off. Get a few of these guys out of our way. I should be able to take the whole top section off here. Now this is a fairly significant piece, and while I'm sure that isn't going to take off on me, it could jump up 6 inches or so. So you don't want to put yourself in the line of fire at all in this area as we're cutting. Another fairly large chunk we're going to take off here. Try to make a careful cut here without hitting that fiber. So that's pretty well all we can do over top of that line. To remove any of that stuff, I'd have to reach my arm up and over that strand. And if that were to let go off that, that's going to go from here to, looks like about 4 or 5 feet higher in the blink of an eye. We'll get rid of some more of this weight underneath it so we're not in the line of fire. That guy's not moving much. Still quite a bit of weight on her. So I think what we'll do next, you can see where I left that notch. That's in there pretty good. There's a pretty good chance, now not guaranteed, but a pretty good chance that's not going to slip off from there. I may be able to free this guy up off the branch. And you can also see how the wire is still somewhat straight here and has a sharper bend. So this part of the tree is taking the majority of the weight. So we're going to try and free up this guy so we can do some more cuts from the ground after. Now, as I mentioned, when we free this guy up, even just to reach the tool over we start cutting, that could come up, hit the tool, smack me in the face. So from underneath, we're going to clear a few of these branches that it may get caught on. And then we're simply going to do an undercut. Now when doing this undercut, sometimes the pressure will snap that branch backward. You want to keep your hinge so it folds away from you. And I'm going to leave the bark fully intact so it hangs on a little bit better than if I were to make a notch. Wind's starting to pick up quite a bit there. You can see see my cut is opening up from the upward pressure on the line, and there she goes, she snapped off. Now this guy that's not on the wire at all, if I can get him out of the way and release that main part, it'll make my life a lot easier. So we're gonna do another undercut. This time I can cut from the top where there's no upward pressure on it, but I can keep my hacksaw underneath that line at all times, so I'm out of the line of fire. My next cut, if I had a second guy with me, I'd simply sit myself way back here, go about 4 feet down that branch and do an undercut and let the tension of that line snap the top of that tree off backwards and up into the trees. Instead, we're gonna go on the ground and release that right from the ground. So it does look like we have 3 or 4 trees down here. All right, we pretty well get that freed up. I think we'll be able to get this guy off and out of our way right here. Pretty large chunk of tree. At this point, chainsaw would be nice, but like I said, it's either wait an hour and a half for a guy so I can use the chainsaw, or start cutting with this, and we should make it through it pretty easy enough with the hacksaw here. All right, so we've got that full of clear. So we're gonna get this whole section of log out of the way. We've almost got her beat here now. Quite a bit of the tension's lifted off. You can see I can actually move that wire now. Now the way this tree is laying on that line, as that line lifts up, it's gonna wanna pick up the tree and bring it back towards me, but also slightly towards the woods. So this is a big tree. This is way too big to be cutting with a sawzall. Definitely a chainsaw job. But again, it will make it through it. It's not gonna take long. We're gonna make a slight notch on this back side. So as it lifts this off, it's not gonna throw this log 40 feet in the air. There's still quite a bit of weight on it. So as that springs up, it's simply gonna lift this up slowly. All right. Still got half our battery left. That blade will be good for, if I'm cutting like that, another couple of weeks. All right, so we got that cleared. If I had 2 or 3 jobs lined up like this, or even another one like this, I'd get another guy and we'd do the work with a chainsaw. If it's just the one cut out of town like this, I see there's a couple other work orders rolling in actually with the wind. But uh-oh, wire's down. Wire snapped loose in front of the house. It's flying in the wind 5 feet off the ground. Afraid it will hit someone on the sidewalk. Almost guarantee you that that's a communication line that has been abandoned on the house. But either way, we're not going to waste any time. We're going to pack up the truck, head towards that other call. I'd say probably 90% of our wires down calls during regular weather, a little bit of wind, are communication lines. A lot of the old pairs, coax, service drops that don't get removed off customers' houses break off all the time. But we as a power company have to respond in case there's any electrical hazard, of course. So sounds like that'll probably be another job that's going to be built to the local cable or telephone company. Keeps you busy. It's good. We're gonna wrap this up and start heading that way. Anyways, thanks for stopping in as always, guys. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.